And we are live. Hello, everyone from the Lifter
Hi.
LMS community and Presidium community. It's Will Middleton from Lifter LMS and Christos from Presidium. I'm calling in from Nashville, Tennessee in the US today, and Christos is in Athens, Greece. And today we're going to be talking through what the features are of a managed WordPress host and kind of what the back end's going to look like versus maybe a shared host or a dedicated host. Like, what are the features that managed hosts have to offer that you might want to consider when choosing hosting for your Lifter LMS and WordPress website? Because there's a lot of considerations to make, and I think the feature set is something that's a little bit confusing to understand from the pricing page. It's like what the analytics are, what everything looks like. So Christos is going to take us through a little bit of the dashboard and has some slides for us today to talk through the features of managed hosting and what's offered, and that'll give you a good feeling as to whether you want to consider that for your LMS website if you think that's an important feature to have for running an application like a Lifter LMS site on the web. But Christos, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you, Will?
I'm doing all right. I just woke up late night doing all kinds of like video work. I'm inspired by a YouTuber here in Nashville to try to up my game a little bit. So I'm pretty tired,
Look
but
at you moving around,
get into it and learn
content.
Yeah, I'm excited to learn about the features of managed hosting and just more specifically because I think of all hosts as having like I've seen the cPanel setup before. I've seen the features that more basic hosting packages have to offer, and I've seen the features of managed hosting, but I've never really taken a look at them in a comparison sort of frame of mind to think about what exactly the features are and why these features are important to me running a WordPress application. I just kind of take whatever I get from my web host as features and then we'll run with it, but I hadn't really considered the features involved in the back end of the hosting interface as like serious considerations when making a hosting decision. And just like in our last webinar, we talked about dedicated hosting versus shared hosting versus managed hosting, and which one would be the best for a Lifter LMS WordPress application. And so we'll be diving in specifically to managed hosting. I guess our consensus, if you hadn't seen that one, was that managed hosting is the best way to have support. Like, it's the path of least resistance, the path where you'll have to not have the freelancers come into the back end of your website and be fixing things or troubleshooting bugs. There will be less frustration and things in general. So managed hosting is generally where we landed as the best way to go if you can afford that out of the box. But I guess, Christos, are you ready to dive into the slides here and take us through the back end of WordPress managed hosting?
Yeah, sure. So like you said, we talked about shared, managed, and dedicated. We kind of compared them. We're going to go over it just a little bit too on the second slide, I guess. This is Cody. This is our mascot at Presidium. He's a fox coon.
Nice.
There's a reason why he's a fox coon. I'll tell you next time. Cool. Quick side by side. We talked about shared hosting. There's multiple tenants. You've got your website hosted on an environment with more people. So it's kind of like traveling and you going to a hostel, staying at the hostel, because it's a pretty cheap option. It's functional. I don't know if it works for everyone or for every situation, but it definitely works, and it'll get you around and on the internet in this case, right? So you could use it for personal sites, maybe a CV, like I mentioned last time, or maybe a really like small shop. So if it was a shop, it'd be like a really small stand at the flea store.
Yeah.
Dedicated hosting could be, well, everything is resource dependent. Like there's a big asterisk at the bottom. If you have more resources in a shared hosting plan, that really works well, and you have some sort of dedicated hosting plan that's smaller. Okay, everything's relative to resources, just asterisk. So with dedicated hosting, you've got all the resources to yourself. Whatever's on that server, hopefully it's like an actual server and not some sort of container. Otherwise, it wouldn't be very dedicated. That's more for something big, something enterprise level, lots of traffic, maybe bursts of traffic, or agencies handling like a lot of different sites. And managed hosting, it's what it says here. It's a specialized service. It's specifically for WordPress. So it's hosting made for WordPress, where everything that you don't have to, or that you might have to worry about using a different solution, it's handled. So you don't have to, you could focus on your website instead of your hosting. That's the whole thing. I put all sites here because, I cut you off there. Go ahead.
Oh, no problem. I really like that that analogy of thinking of it like shared hosting is like staying at a hostel when you're traveling. You might be in a room with a bunch of bunk beds and other people. And then dedicated hosting would be like having your own maybe private room or
No. So I go like this. Sorry for cutting you off.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not that sorry. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry. So shared hosting would be something up to a hostel.
Yeah.
Or starting from a hostel, and it would go up to maybe like, a motel level. There'll still be multiple tenants.
Right.
Whereas dedicated hosting is that Airbnb that's all yours, like that big seaside one that we see on YouTube.
Yeah.
But you have to fill it, figure it out what you're going to do with it, bring people over. It's going to get complicated, right? The same thing goes for dedicated hosting. Where managed hosting, it's luxury level. Like you don't do anything. You're at a 5-star hotel and people are bringing you things before you ask for them. The waiters are waiters could be tech support engineers. The waiters are super experienced and they'll use their vibe to try to figure out what's going on.
Okay, that makes sense. That's a really good analogy. So you got like the 5-star hotel where everything's done for you. You have the Airbnb with dedicated hosting where you're still going to have to figure out, it may be a luxury space, but you have to figure out how to use it. The resources configure everything. And then shared hosting would be like a motel or a hostel sort of setup where it's multi-tenant. I really love those simple metaphors and analogies to help like break it down, these more complex subjects in like abstract terms.
I'm happy. I love making them.
Nice. But yeah, take it away. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. I don't think we have any more questions. We've been talking about shared, dedicated, and managed for a while. It's important to note that managed hosting can be both dedicated and shared, actually. So there's an asterisk there. You should look out for that with hosting providers. Other than that, there's VPS hosting that we never really talked about. And that can be, it could be shared. There used to be like shared VPSs where you would get a tiny bit of a VPS and pay a very small amount, maybe use it for a proxy or something. But maybe a VPS would be something dedicated hosting oriented. But if you had a dedicated VPS of some sort and you made it, host WordPress better than anything, that's kind of managed hosting. All these terms are very close, but managed hosting is managed hosting.
Yeah.
We don't have any confusion, right?
No, I think it makes sense that we have managed hosting as an option where we have like technical experts who are specifically dedicated to WordPress, and then sometimes they're aware of plugins like Lifter LMS that users are going to be hosting sites with and can make configurations to the server to accommodate.
Cool. I wanted to break it down to the least amount of like pieces for managed WordPress hosting features, and I did this. And I think we're only going to get to the dashboard, maybe just like touch on support. Infrastructure, we kind of already talked about it. It's always different though with every host. I mean, it's a little off topic just to go into how awesome and robust Presidium's infrastructure is. Again, we did that too, but we'll do it again.
Yeah.
So dashboard is what you foresee. Like you pay for it, you log in, and it's like, oh, dashboard. This is what I'm starting with. It's way before your WordPress site ever hits the net, unless it already exists on another host. Anyway, okay, managing your WordPress websites and more. Yay, ta-da. Support, I put sales into support too because I consider sales support. So pre-sale and consulting, you have capacity planning, performance testing, stress testing. I don't know, trying to get you into the right plan, that kind of stuff that I think most managed hosts do. I'm not sure. Presidium does.
Yeah.
Maybe consultations for custom solutions and the value-added services I added for performance testing, optimization. Maybe you have like a recent example at Presidium is like really custom or specific encryption needs. Yeah, you could just reach out and the managed host will probably give you a solution, hopefully. Or maybe it could be a managed host that has a bunch of add-ons for their plans, like little plugins that you can add, and you'll find all these extra services. And last, but so much more important in bold, really responsive and like really good tech support, and not like the level 1 kind that says we got your message, yeah, we're looking into it. The actual people that fix it. Right. So we don't want escalations. Maybe not 0 escalations if it's not possible, but 0 escalations would be perfect. I think you'd agree. It's annoying to get back and forth, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think as a hosting company, that's like a really important feature because the hosting is where the website's located at. Like as the it's kind of like the base level of like that is the property that our users are visiting where our store is located, like at the web hosting. So I think support at that level is super awesome and important to emphasize when choosing a web host. And I like your point here about the pre-sales consulting and testing. because that's not something that all web hosts offer. Where I don't know if you could add some more description to that, but from my understanding, that's where the web host will copy your website, but even before buying, they'll copy your website, run it on their environment, and see if it's going to be faster or more budget friendly. Like it's going to be, if you already have a website with a bunch of traffic and maybe you're experiencing speed issues, or maybe just like what the cost of your web hosting is and you might be trying to reduce it, part of the pre-sales process for a lot of managed hosts would be to take your site, host it on their server, and just see if it would be faster or cheaper to run. And so that's like a feature upfront that you get when doing pre-sales stuff with a managed WordPress host.
Yeah. Plus, then no one's disappointed. Everyone knows what to expect.
Yeah.
You can't really, I don't know, lie about it.
Yeah.
It's like
right. It's like you're proving that like this offer is going to work. We've hosted it on our environment. I really like that proof in the pre-sales process.
Yeah, I mean, you said it really nice and salesy from a technical guy. I don't know, person rather. Going into that, they'd probably be like, "Yeah, okay, so everything works. Buy it now. You've been on trial for 2 weeks."
Right.
But no, it's true. That's why I think everyone, or I think every managed hosting provider offers some sort of free trial period, and maybe extended free trial periods for, like, I don't know, larger customers or bigger prospects.
Yeah, I think using that trial period is really smart, to use that trial period to figure out if it's going to be a good fit for you. But I wanted to emphasize that point because I think that's a really high value point. I had a client like 2 weeks ago who moved over to Presidium and was just shocked at how much faster it was. But that was just part of the pre-sales process, was to be able to try it out, see if it was going to be faster, making a financial decision.
Is he satisfied or her?
Yeah. And the team is really responsive, and it's just like when you have a complex website that's already running and has a bunch of traffic and users and it is experiencing load issues and things like that, starting to make decisions on who we're hosting with and what we're optimizing on the website becomes important. So if you have a high traffic website, that part of the pre-sales process is so important.
Well, definitely. Otherwise, it's a huge waste of time. Plus, I mean, you've done web work before. You know how much of a pain in the, can I say ass? How much of a pain in the ass the moving from one host to another is.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, migrations don't always happen the way they should happen. I'm sure you're aware.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I don't know. Support's important. That's what you're paying for. Oh, like we said in the previous call, if you don't pay, I don't know, managed WordPress host to do it, you'll probably end up paying some sort of developer or DevOps engineers that fix it for you at some point. We're getting ahead of ourselves again. We always do this.
Oh, no problem. And yeah, like your point on the dashboard is like, it's what you first see when you complete your purchase, and how you point your domain to the web host, and how you migrate the whole migration process and experiences from the dashboard, for example. So if you were to purchase, like, I need to slow down and how I talk, but if you were to purchase like a shared website host, and I've had this experience a lot of times, where I'll purchase a shared website host, I'll purchase a domain name, and then I'll be following some like rough documentation about how I'm supposed to point my domain to my web host, and I get really confused, and it's a very frustrating process with a lot of friction. So that dashboard experience that's designed is really important to create a smooth user experience. So yeah, there's a lot of good points here, but yeah, feel free to take it away.
No, that makes perfect sense. I mean, even look at, I'm getting a little off track again too, but I don't care. Look at WHM versus cPanel and which port you use for which one, but then you want to open a support ticket or something, and then you have to log into the main site because you don't have support ticket integration going on inside of cPanel or WHM. But then WHM does other stuff that cPanel also does in different ways. You have to find the other icons, find the other services, different forms. It's a little more confusing. You're right.
Yeah, it can be like a frustrating, confusing process for an end user who doesn't understand what's going on. And I had that experience of like, I'm just following the tutorial. I don't understand the underlying technology. But of course, you as a hosting expert understand everything going on an underlying level. So it's a little bit...
I wouldn't say so. I've worked with, I don't want to say the name, but they're very big. It starts with big. I couldn't understand what was happening. Support couldn't. It was very difficult. We ended up giving up, unfortunately. But yeah, support. Okay, so then it says cool high-tech hosting infrastructure and automations. We're not gonna have enough time to go into that, I think. Plus, I don't think people like low-level people really care. They just want everything to work well.
Right.
Cool. So dashboard. I made a list of a bunch of features. It's boring. I don't want to go over the list. We're going to see it in real life with the actual dashboard demo. But there's a point I'm trying to make with this table and the whole managed WordPress hosting. Get it? So managed. RBAC management, domain management, migrating and cloning management, staging site management. It's all quite managed. No, that's funny, is it? I tried to make management a little smaller too. It's not funny. I'm kind of concerned about the next slides.
I get it though. I get it now. You just have to explain it.
Yeah. So most of the things that you see here, you could probably get from some sort of control panel, like cPanel. I feel like we're bashing on cPanel all the time. I just felt bad. cPanel is really good for what it does. It's just made for different stuff. Anyway.
Yeah, I think that's an important point to emphasize, is that like shared hosting is good for what it does. It's just not maybe what we should be using for more complex applications like LMSs. Like it's not that it's like a bad product or service. It's just that like understanding what that product or service is good for and what product or service we need for our sites. I think that's important.
Definitely. I don't know if there's any. I guess we can go over them really quick and then see them in more detail later. It's pretty, like, not deep into the webinar or podcast. I don't know what to call these. So, site deployment. Everyone knows what site deployment is. You push new website, a new website comes up. Maybe you fill a form out beforehand. Anyway. Team collaboration, super important. Like, I don't know, you have the account under your name and you want some freelancer located in some different country to access it. All you have to do is invite them using their email address, and then they'll have access to do whatever you let them do, because you'll decide if they're like a team leader, so there's multiple sites there, or if they're just like a website administrator, or so they have access to one website, or there's a couple different countries. Well, it depends on the provider again. You'll see ours, we have 3. Domain management. Okay, add domain. There's a little more there. We combine domain management with like SSL generation and installation of Presidium, but there's another bullet further down for SSL certificate management. Anyway, migration and cloning, something that you're not going to find, probably at least, with a different provider without managed hosting. Staging site management. I don't know if everyone is aware of what a staging site is to begin with. So that's when you have a sort of development site, something after development, actually, like if you take it really technically. But anyway, you can upload your site to whatever hosting provider provides a staging environment option. You upload your site. It's in the production one, the one that everyone sees. You can push a couple buttons and then you copy that site over to a version that you can edit. And then when you're happy with your changes, or whenever you want to deploy those changes to the site after testing them without ruining the production site, you again push a couple buttons and everything's good. And then if something doesn't work and all goes to hell and you're getting 502 errors and you're like, oh no, what's happening? My store is down. There's a button to revert that.
Yeah, I think with LMS sites, the staging sites are super important, especially for troubleshooting technical conflicts. And as you mentioned, a big feature of staging is that push to live feature, where when you're happy with your staging site, you can click push to live and it'll push that production environment or that environment to your live environment. I think a lot of LMS sites, though, we don't end up using the push to live feature because we don't want to override the student progress that's been made since we created our staging site. So we create like the staging copy of the website, and then when we push to live, we push the database, and then that ends up regressing student progress. I'm not familiar with how we can push, plugin and page updates without pushing database updates, but in LMS, we usually use it for troubleshooting. Is there a way to push with Presidium the staging stuff, so you would push your changes to pages and without pushing changes to the user meta tables?
So for the dashboard, I feel like our project manager is going to yell at me, or I hope he's not watching. I don't think it's something that we have released like outwards on the dashboard on a page level, like this kind of version control. So I'm gonna say no, but I'm going to say this is probably configurable. So you're talking about not changing things on like specific tables, right?
Yeah.
It's like right. That's something that's definitely configurable.
Cool. Yeah, because like
I
that's a big thing.
don't think it's exposed. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh yeah, that's just like a big concern with LMS users is the staging site push to live mode just doesn't really work on basically any host that I've found so far, because if you're going to push a change to the database, you have to do the entire database, not specific tables of the database. So you couldn't push updates to your page post types and not your user post types, because your users have been making progress in the meantime since the staging copy has been created. But yeah, I didn't mean to go down a rabbit hole. Feel free to continue.
No, that makes perfect sense, and that sounds like a really cool feature, actually. So technically, it's definitely possible. So you're just gonna add some exclusions, like don't push this table. I guess for site files, it's possible too. It might be a little bit more work than it would be for just excluding a single database table. But I like where you're going with it. Plus, I really like that you like made me, I don't know, blush. You asked a question, and I'm like, oh, damn it, he did it again. It's because we do this unscripted every time. I love it.
I love unscripted. But yeah, and then you have backups as well in SSL.
Yeah, backup's super important. We just explained why, I guess we can go over it again. When everything goes to hell, you push a couple buttons and everything works again. But not only, I mean, you might have missed something, and it might be something from like a month ago. So we provide offsite backups for 30 days. And instant backups, we're going to see what those are. I'm just like throwing out words now.
Yeah, and what do you think about backup solutions on the managed hosting level versus backup solutions that are WordPress plugins? Like, I mean, it sounds like using the hosting solution would be the easier and better thing to do to be in compliance with the host. Like, if the host designed a backup solution, it probably works well with that website host. But I've seen there are some great backup plugins for WordPress. So is it important to have that as a feature of the host, or because that is the thing, like if your host doesn't have backups, you're going to need a backup plugin. What do you think about the hosting backup options that Presidium has versus like plugin backup options? Like if you're on Presidium, should you not be using a backup plugin because you already have that feature covered and you don't want to be creating extra for your database?
I'm not aware if we ban any of those kind of plugins, but I can tell you like with full assurance that anything you can take off your site and put like on something else on the actual infrastructure is going to help your site. Your site's going to be lighter. But then there's the other thing too. So with anything that does caching or security or backups, I guess, or anything that's resource intensive, anything that does image conversion, like batches of that, it's going to make your site slower. It's naturally going to need, like at a technical level, I don't know, it's going to need to use PHP to actually do things, move things around and work. So yeah,
it's going to put more
by the actual infrastructure, and not the infrastructure, I'm sorry, but you're going to be limited by your actual plan too. Whether it's how secure your server is or how fast your cache is, because even in caching, I keep going on a rant now, even in caching, if you use a plugin to cache instead of something that's like dedicated, made for caching, that uses RAM and like SSDs or something like really fast, you're using the disk that's on the same container or the same server that you're hosting your website on. So you're going to be limited by that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think just to summarize that as a high level point, having backups as a feature of your website host or your managed website host is a good way to speed up your site at scale, because having a backup plugin is going to operate within the constraints of WordPress, add more PHP code to your website, and possibly not cover everything on the infrastructure. So having it offloaded to a function of your web host is going to be a little bit more of a lean way to build a website than having it as a plugin, if it's an option. So like that's a good feature.
Yeah, plus I don't know, you have to worry less about actually even managing the plugin. Like what if it doesn't work and you get a notification and everything? The same thing will happen with a managed host, and it'll probably be the task will probably be re-executed or executed again by the host. You're covered. You're basically covered. It's the whole VIP service.
Cool.
So WP version, plugin, and theme management. You can upgrade themes. You can maybe see the change log of a theme. You can upgrade themes or plugins and see the change log of like plugins from version to version. It's just saving yourself from actually going into WP admin, or it's a really quick way to go over like all of your plugins and be like, hey, am I up to date? Am I good? Another thing, it's not a dashboard feature, but it's a managed WordPress hosting feature, is labeling certain plugins as banned, either because they're not fully compatible, I guess you could say, with the actual infrastructure. So like with us, that we have our adaptive caching layer thing. We ban some caching plugins because they mess with our infrastructure, unless someone reaches out to us and says, okay, we can turn off the Presidium caching and we'll just use the plugin because we like it for whatever reason. That's fine. Another reason why plugins would be banned is for security reasons. Like what if there's some sort of exploit that attacks Lifter LMS? I don't want to throw out random plugin names. I'm just going to say Lifter LMS.
Yeah.
We'll get a notification. It's all automated, and the plugin will go into the banned plugins, and you'll get an email saying, "Hey, this plugin, it's got some sort of security vulnerability at this version. It's going to be disabled, or it's going to be uninstalled in X amount of days." And then you'll get spammed multiple times until it's finally uninstalled or upgraded or disabled.
Yeah, that makes sense. Having that plugin list, and like managing a list of plugins that are or not compatible with the platform, and that could change on like custom request.
Definitely. Database management is something that's offered by pretty much any control panel kind of thing or dashboard. I guess you could push a button and see PHP MyAdmin. But extra little tools like finding and replacing stuff in a database or cloning databases, migrating, importing databases, all of that is kind of complicated on PHP MyAdmin lots of times. There's a lot of checks that you have to do on your files. Anything could really ruin it. I don't know. It's dirtier. It needs a little bit of technical experience. It's not bad. Or it needs a lot of ChatGPT and a lot of coffee, an early long night to maybe import a database sometimes. Anyway, we take care of that. Manage WordPress host take care of that with a more automated process to make it easier for people. The same thing goes for migration and cloning. I mentioned it before. Ooh, I ran over the part where if you do want, like, I don't know if every hosting provider provides this for free, like without an extra fee. But Presidium, we will help you with your migration if you just come to us.
Okay, like as a service, just to help like port over the files, the plugins, and all that kind of stuff along with the database.
It's included with every plan, actually. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, that's a big feature. I've had clients, like I used to do a lot of freelance work. I still do a little freelance work, but I used to do a lot of it. And a lot of that freelance work was migration work. So I would be manually copying the files and manually copying the database. And so those projects would end up costing about like $300 to $400 at the time when I was like that full time. So having that as like a $300 to $400 service included like the migration part of it in the web hosting package is super nice.
Well, definitely. I mean, you're really getting your money's worth. So, okay, the next thing is the object cache. I know that I think I don't know how many managed WordPress hosts there are out there, but I do know that other hosts they charge more for the object cache. What is the object cache? It's this thing. It's a database, right? So it's a really simple kind of database. Let's talk about Redis as an object cache. It's the most popular one that you'll find people using with WordPress. It's of attribute value pair database. What that means is there's just two rows in each database. There's an attribute like name and the value that's going to say Magical Middleton. Right? That's going to sit after the caching layer, but before the database layer. And what happens there is there are a few tables in WordPress that are usually like crazy overpopulated. Meta tables, post meta. I know Lifter LMS used to use some of the WordPress meta tables before they optimized the database at some point. The schema was doing something really bad, something that a lot of plugins do. They used, I don't know, like post meta or any meta table that's already included in WordPress to save little bits of data that their users are going to be requesting after being logged in. So the cache isn't going to be working, like the page cache, the stuff up front, or some caching plugin, because now we're talking about like logged in user requests. And what happens when you have this like intermediary object cache database thing is it's a cache. So instead of having WordPress, instead of having this is really hard to explain for me right now. Anyway, instead of having to go back and forth from the PHP to the WordPress to the database, it's cached somewhere in between, which is going to provide like make less database requests for even logged in users. I guess under most circumstances, probably every circumstance. Yeah, that's what it is. So it's an intermediary database. It's a cache somewhere between the WordPress and the database that's going to make things a little faster for you, which is definitely really important for LMS websites. Actually moving or actually focusing on the data that you want out of those meta tables is super important. So there's a really recent example, and I don't remember what they called it because it was a really funny name, WooCommerce. Recently, I've got this. Is it called HPOS? Yes. WooCommerce, everyone knows and loves WooCommerce. They did this recently. What's this? This high performance order storage option. They moved things off these tables, what's it called? Post and post meta into these tables over here. They didn't move them. I guess it says the data is synced from posts and post meta over to these tables. So that way there's going to be a lot less stuff in here and you won't have things in here from other plugins. Things will be, you'll be querying smaller amounts of data sets.
Yeah, and so
go ahead.
So just to clarify, how does the object cache help when we have having it makes sense to me that those custom tables that the plugin created make faster load times because it's querying its own tables rather than querying a massive table. So every time it loads, it loads the information faster. But how does the object cache play into that part of it?
It sits in. It's going to have a smaller database because it's only going to cache requests that are being made, and they're probably requests that are going to be made again and again and again and again and again. Like one user on one course going through the course, pushing buttons, instead of having to go back to the database every time. You've got the object cache in the middle. Plus, it's really important to note that like Redis is super fast. Redis, RDIS, the technology used for the object cache. I guess in this situation. Super fast out of it by nature.
Yeah,
you can run it in memory too. Memory is really fast.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. To have that like caching layer, and is there a way that we can like exclude certain items from that object cache, or is there any like conflicts that can arise when the object cache hits a resource that might be being updated in the database and then reloaded?
Technically, yes. It should be something that could be exported, not exported, but what's the word? Exposed on a dashboard.
Okay, so like for example, if I were to like fill out a form on my website, like we have a first name shortcode that says hi first name. First name isn't one of the shortcodes that would be stored in our database. It'd be in the user meta. But like if I were to update my first name on the website and then the database gets that updated first name, would the object cache still serve my old first name, or how would it like update?
Okay, yeah, good point. You do have to clear the object cache. I can't really say for what you're talking about now. Like it's more for the meta tables and like the really bits of info. But yeah, exactly what you're talking about. You have to clear the cache, or if you see that your site's not changing or is not responding with the changes that you pushed or whatever, yes, clear the cache.
Yeah, I think that's like a common issue with quizzes is a Lifter LMS user will like submit a quiz and complete a lesson. So
but
now
that's not something. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so they'd submit a quiz, complete a lesson, and then sometimes caching mechanisms can they'll move to the next lesson, but it'll tell them they don't have access because they haven't completed the previous lesson because they're being served the information from a caching layer that they haven't yet completed that lesson because the site in the database doesn't know that yet, that they've completed the lesson. But then the cache would need to be cleared, so then the database, the cache would be updated.
I don't know. It could be from a couple different like reasons. I mean, I would definitely start off in troubleshooting thinking with the actual browser cache, okay? Because it's like the easiest one. But if you don't want to reach out and be like, hey, clear your cache, you can clear your server-side cache and be like, oh, is it working now? If that doesn't work, be like, oh, browser cache, and then finally resort to the apt cache. Unless, of course, you made some sort of changes recently and I don't know, you just know it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, caching's fun. It's also the greatest way to like hide problems and not be able to find them.
Right. Yeah, caching does hide a lot of problems. But the object cache sounds like a cool feature. It's just I was just curious about some of those considerations regarding LMS.
It's included free in all of Presidium's plans too.
Awesome. But yeah, we could.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say we can move on to. I didn't know if you want to cover the other side on the SFTP stuff or.
Yeah, it looks like simpler stuff too. So SFTP management or FTP account management, I think everyone knows what that is. It's simple. It's provided by pretty much everyone. It's a must. Dedicated cache management goes back to actually having or working with a hosting provider that has some sort of caching solution, like on the actual systems. If it exists, then you should be able to do actions like exclude certain URLs from the cache, like login URLs for LMS sites with your little nuances.
Yeah.
And then you can't log in, and you're wondering why can't I log in?
Yeah, that's one of those examples of like the user buys access to the website. The database knows that they are a paid user and that they should be able to access the course,
right.
But the caching layer is still serving them somewhere along the way. The cache is still serving them the version of the website that is before they had access. So they purchase the course, they see a login page and it says you don't have an account on this website, but it's like you do have an account, you just bought it, but the caching layer doesn't know that you bought it yet. So somewhere along the cache that would need to be cleared, or excluding the certain pages from the cache, like the purchase page and the login page. Fix that completely.
Yeah, definitely, especially for Lifter too with your custom login page.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the first problems I had with Lifter when I was doing performance testing. Nuance on login. It's good to have. You shouldn't have it. It's just a pain.
Yeah, to have the Lifter LMS. And for anyone who doesn't know what we're referring to, is when you install the Lifter LMS plugin, you have that Lifter LMS My Account shortcode that goes on a dashboard page. And then that will display a login form to users who are logged out, and it will display the regular dashboard that we're used to when students are logged in. So that login form is the custom login form. We're not using the WordPress general login. We're using our own customized front end page there. Yeah, you also have like CDN and CDN cache.
Right. Sorry, I dropped my cigarette.
No problem.
Speaking of the cigarette, I had this idea that like someone's going to make fun of me one day, or like meme me like holding a cigarette the whole time talking.
Oh yeah, that's already happened.
Has it?
Yeah. I got one comment on that. Yeah.
Was it like a bad comment?
No, it was my mom who was like, "Is he smoking?" But
it's not pot though, I swear.
Awesome. But yeah, so like
tobacco.
Nice. So CDN, we talked about CDN on our last stream around shared, dedicated, and managed. So there's CDN management, CDN cache. So you're saying like CDN management can be a part of a web host's offer? Like, so I'm familiar with like Cloudflare CDN, and I might be with my web host, but I have to go buy CDN. So CDN's included in certain packages, or what does that mean?
In all packages at Presidium, but a managed WordPress host should give you the option to be able to add a CDN as like an add-on if it's not part of a plan already. But just having the CDN is one thing, but being able to configure your CDN just by pushing a button or two and clear the CDN cache, like what's below that, because CDNs cache things too. So if you do make a change to an image, for example, and you keep the image name the same, everything's as it was before, and I'm trying to load, I don't know, one of your pages, the image probably isn't going to change immediately, at least. At a certain amount of time has to pass. Or you push the button and the CDN cache clears. But yeah, CDNs should definitely be provided like out of the box for a managed WordPress hosting business. I'm saying it.
Cool.
Well, yeah.
That makes sense. CDN we covered in a previous stream was around just some general optimizations you could make that wouldn't necessarily affect loading
And
of
it's
Flipped
really,
LMS.
sorry.
Oh, yeah.
As far as CDNs go too, and when you're trying to select your hosting provider or maybe just your CDN provider, go with someone who has the most like endpoints everywhere, the most spots, the most servers all over the place. We use Akamai's, it's huge. Cloudflare is a really good option too. Plus, Cloudflare has a lot of interesting like new innovations and technologies.
The only one I'm
First,
familiar with is Cloudflare. I haven't really worked with any others.
Yeah, Akamai CDN is huge. Akamai is one of our like greatest partners.
Awesome.
But yeah, we're like running out of time. I'm finishing this list.
Yeah, no problem.
Support ticket management. Lots of people we've gotten crap in the past as Presidium because we don't have a like live chat, but we don't want it because it's gonna end up being some first level support engineer, or it's going to end up just adding an extra service that isn't required, because when you can just log into your what's it called dashboard and have something like live chat that uses a ticketing system on the back end that actually monitors and controls all of the back and forth, all of the conversations. There's accountability for everything. It's much better than live chat, and it pretty much is live chat depending on the response time of the support engineers. So most people have ticketing in their mind like, yeah, I'm going to open a ticket now and I'm going to get a response in 28 to 48 hours. No, I mean, in managed WordPress hosting, someone's taking care of you.
Yeah.
And we're going to see that live. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. Now the support engineers might be watching and might know. I wanted to be like, hi. I wanted to see how long it would take them to respond. I'm still doing it anyway. Reverse proxy management, not getting into it. Firewall management, not getting into it. It's just like blocking stuff. We'll see it live. Sorry for going fast, but I wasn't conscious at the time before.
Yeah, no problem.
SSH management, something that Presidium doesn't provide yet, but it's on the it's going to be released. Like, it works kind of sort of on the back end. It's a big issue too. Like, actually, so managed it. There's a dilemma here with SSH management and managed WordPress hosting. SSH management takes away the managed part of managed WordPress hosting because it gives you the ability to do anything and everything. With certain restrictions, I guess. So it's kind of an oxymoron.
Yeah, so shell access would be like,
right,
if you have a developer who's like super high level and is going to start customizing your server, there's an option for that.
But it is something we're going to provide because people are asking for it.
Yeah.
And it should be like this quarter. Traffic analytics and performance analytics are going to look so much better when I show you guys what we've got like on our dashboard than me talking about them. So I'm skipping it. And log access, super important, because when you're, I don't know, editing a plugin or getting some sort of error that says check your logs, and you're like, how do I check my logs? What do I do? Exposing something like that into a dashboard where a user could just click and be like, hey, look, there's an error there, and maybe just figure it out without even going into some server, downloading some huge file to see what the error might be and scrolling. It's right there for you.
That's a really wonderful feature. Like troubleshooting, I do a lot of like tech support stuff with Lifter LMS and also client work. Those error logs are super important, like the server logs and like what's happening on the website. If, for example, when you have with Lifter LMS, we have a membership feature, and you can list a bunch of courses in auto enrollment that will be added to users of the membership. So maybe if you enroll in the membership, you get access to 5 courses, and this feature leverages cron jobs on a WordPress website in order to function. And sometimes there can be issues with the cron, and so we ask for like server log resources, and it's really hard with some web hosts to find access to the server logs and actually what's going on. So this right here, this log access is really, I'm happy you highlighted that. I'm happy to see that Presidium is that like the log access is easy to find, because that's exactly what our tech team would need to see why exactly the cron job in that case failed.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to the next slide now.
Yeah.
Oh, this was supposed to be a joke. I don't know. I've been trying lately to be a funny person. Trying. So you're like, oh, my control panel does it too. But then I'm like, maybe. Quick examples. Site deployment. what it is on something like, I guess, a common or traditional hosting control panel. You have to do all this stuff, and all this stuff has like 4 steps. But I was way too lazy to write them down, let alone actually do them. Push many buttons is everywhere again. I see that you're not responding to it in any way, so it's probably not funny. But I tried again.
I can't read the small text.
Oh, it says push many buttons over and over.
New domain site process. Oh yeah. So there's just like a lot of steps in the process, and I think that's a good point to highlight. Is like how many steps in this tutorial is it going to take to build a website? Like minimizing the number of steps, even though it might be possible with a shared host or a dedicated host to configure all this stuff yourself, you're going to have to go through like a 2-week learning curve and some failures and challenges and like tech issues. It's totally possible to set these things up, but it's just a more frictionful process. Frictionful, I don't think that's a word. It's a process that includes a lot more friction to set up your domain, to set up your staging websites, like all that kind of stuff. It just takes a lot more work and would require some higher end. It requires more of your time or hiring somebody else to do so. So having that included in a managed hosting's Word dashboard, not a WordPress dashboard, but the managed host dashboard is awesome.
Yeah. Plus, there's a lot. You've done it. I've done it. There's a lot of back and forth. What if you're reading a tutorial of some sort and then it's on a different version that you're on, and then you're looking for a button that doesn't exist? You're like, oh, that's great. That's why there's an asterisk at the bottom that says your greater understanding of how this works will affect the result.
Yeah, it's like as a business owner, as an LMS site owner, we want to worry about problems like conversions on our email list or configuring Twilio because we're trying to send text messages to our customers. We don't want to be worrying about why is my domain name server configured incorrectly? Why is like I got to go spend 2 hours to copy my files to create a staging website? Like we don't want to worry about those technical problems. We want to worry about more of the business problems. And so that customized dashboard from a managed host like Presidium helps to not have to worry about the tech problems in as much depth.
For sure. And it's got the whole philosophy, like in my mind, it's got the whole push the button philosophy. So, oh no, I went to the next slide. How do I go to the previous one? Oh, this is terrible. I'm pushing the button, but nothing's happening. Well, yay. That's fun, isn't it?
So it's all good. Love.
There we go. Cool. So deployment for managed. It's not all that we just discussed. It's clicking new site, filling out a form, pushing the button, and then put relax because you don't have to worry if it's going to work or not. Same thing goes for site migration. I'm not going to go over them just because we're running out of time and I still haven't opened the dashboard.
Yeah,
but site migration on the host is something that you don't have to worry about. There's an asterisk here too. If something does go wrong when you do try migrating your site to at least Presidium, we'll do it for you. Or we'll do it for you if you're just lazy. The firewall that I didn't go into before because we're going to see it live really fast. So it's going to be a really fast demo of the dashboard. It's for blocking stuff, but you can block things like an entire country, I guess, or want to block an entire country. I'd like to see you manage that on your own. Fun. It's something that you'll have to maintain and update often too. But with a managed WordPress host like ours, you just select Greece and push the button. There's a pattern here with the push the button. I don't know if you're catching it. The support ticket management, there isn't any in a traditional hosting panel because it's a different service, it's a different thing. You have to log into their other site. With a managed WordPress host, you click support tickets and you can create you and update them. So it's pushing a button. I get kind of tired at some point of doing this, so I picked out the obvious ones and I said, cool, staging. Staging environment in a control panel like an old one or a traditional, I guess, one isn't something that exists in managed WordPress hosting. You push a button. Analytics, probably not something you'll see in a traditional hosting panel. Right. And the same goes for page cache options, CDN management, object cache options. Whereas with managed hosting, you push a button. Let's push a button. Yay, cool. Let's log in.
Awesome. Yeah, so now we're going to take a tour of the Presidium dashboard and some of these features that we covered and like what a managed host dashboard can look like. And I'm excited for this because I haven't taken a full tour. So we have a hosting engineer taking us through the Presidium dashboard. And I love that that perspective of like a technical expert's perspective of the general user interface.
I wish we had our Petros here, our project manager, who knows it in and out like his child. So there's a sign-in page. You log in. The first thing that we see here is the team management thing. So I'm part of multiple teams. I guess if someone invites me to their team, I don't have to check my email or anything if they tell me on Slack or something. Like earlier today, Dimitris invited me to something, and I haven't pushed accept yet, so I could show you this. But let's head over to a team. I'm not going to go to my personal one. Let's try this one. There's one site here. Let's go in order. So you got some stats up here. Just like what your site's doing. How many general visits do you have? Storage that you're using. CDN usage. The new site button, really important. We mentioned it before. It's one form. All you have to do is give your site a name, select the PHP version. Okay, so multi-path sites are something that we don't have time to discuss now, but they are supported. And credentials for the admin user, yay. Migration works the same way. We do have a migration wizard. You just follow the steps. There are 4 steps. If this doesn't work, you can always just reach out. You open the support ticket and we'll do it for you. Oh, there's a button for that. Migration request. All you do is fill this out and we'll take care of it.
Nice.
It's the VIP service thing I keep talking about and saying over and over. So here's one of our I don't know, test site, demo site. It's mygroovywebsite.com. It's just a plain vanilla installation. We've got basic information, website name, when the site was created, the version of the WordPress running. If this was outdated, you'd get like an update button here, or maybe a message saying, hey, update this, or we're going to update it for you at a certain time. That's another thing. We force updates. It's a security thing. And I don't know. You're supposed to do it. SSL options are really simple and easy too. You can disable HTTPS, force HTTPS, disable the CDN. We have more domain options to see soon. So I went over to the domain tab, but I want to stick around here for a little more. This is what I mentioned before with the plugin and theme management. You can, I don't know, view the change log of a plugin before doing an update if you wanted to, and you could push the update button. And that's it. It's just sending a task to the background. For Presidium, we don't have like the modal that's sitting here making you wait until the task is done. It gets sent to the background, and you have this little thing over here showing you what activities are currently in progress and at what stage they are and everything. So you don't have to wait for things. You just, push the button.
That's cool.
There's a notification tab too. Okay, feedback. Fine. We don't really care about those, I guess. And then some fun little information about visit, storage, bandwidth. Let's move on to the domains tab. Adding a domain, what we talked about before, what's difficult in some certain situations. I started doing this earlier so I could do it for us. So adding a domain with Presidium, whether it's an extra domain, second domain, I don't know, it's the primary domain for your site. All you have to do is give us a domain. Select if you want to use the WWP version at all, or if it's a wildcard domain. This is the part that makes it easy. We say, do this, like go to your DNS provider, or I guess probably your domain name registrar if you're using their DNS, and do this, just do this. It doesn't get much more obvious. I don't know, does it?
Yeah, I think, and you have like the need support button and everything, like creating those records. That's something I'm sure a lot of us are familiar with web hosting. Is when we buy a domain for like $15 a year, we have these little records we can enter to tell the registrar where to point the domain to. And that's Presidium.
Plus, there's help if you ever needed it. Then you have the option to redirect you using www with the prefix or not using it, and what to do in both situations. And SSL, this is all you have to do for SSL. You just have to say yes. The rest is taken care of free by Let's Encrypt, or you can upload your own certificate.
Next.
I'm just going to push submit and let that grill in the background. Backups. So we have instant backups and full backups, offsite backups, we call them. Instant backups, they go on every day. They're stored for 15 days. You'll get an instant backup will occur like just now. I pushed update for the plugin. I think it was the Google Sidekit, the one that's up here, if it's not done yet. Anyway, before updating a plugin, it's going to take a backup of your site automatically, the dashboard, so that way you could revert. So if there's an issue with the plugin, real important. Offsite backups are something that are held for a lot longer than instant backups. Instant backups are really fast, like really fast. I guess that's why we call it instant backups. Downloading them pretty quick too. So we've got the download live website button for what's going on right now to make it a lot easier for you. I just ran that task too. I don't know if I'm doing too much. The create an instant backup button is pretty quick too.
Nice. So creating backups in the interface, creating new domains, creating new sites, pointing your old domains, migrating anything. I like the task management feature where it shows you what's going on in the background. Yeah, I mean, is there anything like here? We have the SFTP connections, and also to anyone in the chat, feel free to drop any questions if you do have any. We've been covering a lot of topics here, but are there other items you want to make sure we cover in the Presidium dashboard? Like,
yeah, we're definitely running out of time. So SFTP users and creation, it's not something that we need to go into. You create a username and create a password. Then you've got your credentials up here, like how to actually connect. Database stuff. You can push this button and go to my PHP, my admin. Yay. But if you don't want to deal with it, you could just use these buttons here to import or export the database, or to run like tasks on the actual database, whether it's a full search and replace for something, like if you just made some sort of clone or copy of your website, or you want to change if your domain name, like your previous domain name, is anywhere in the actual database, like saved, and you want to switch that because it's causing issues after a migration or a domain name change update. And then copying or cloning databases. The staging environment is something that we might not have time to look at, but this is the error log thing that we talked about before. It's very full. I guess that's bad, but you can just push a button and see all the errors without having to download them. You love it, don't you?
Yeah, I really like that feature.
Feature 2. The access log is naturally going to take longer to load because it's huge, but there you go. So if I visit the site like now, there should be an update pretty soon, like pretty quick here. Yay, there I am. This guy right here.
Nice.
Again, on my Linux device. The analytics thing is something that we should do a whole podcast on. But here we just go over what kind of requests we're getting, the number of requests, some statistics, whether it's a failed or a successful request, what URLs are being hit, and some fun graphs.
Yeah, that does seem like a whole the analytics of a WordPress website.
Yeah, caching has its own analytics section here. You can go further back to a month back. So you can see if you have caching issues, you can see why pages are being cached, aren't being cached, just for monitoring cache stuff. Geo and IP, it's what it sounds like. Where are your users accessing your website from? Where are requests coming in? And some charts showing you the number of requests coming from what countries and the top IPs accessing your server. The performance tab is it's pretty new. It's giving you performance metrics on your website for the time period that you've filtered here, that you've selected on the filter, and you get to see fun stuff like response time from the server's perspective, total request time again from the server's perspective. You get to see which request takes how much time to, what kind of request it is. Too bad we can't spend more time here. So here over at cache, this is where you have your clear page cache options. The CDN cache, the same thing. The persistent cache that we talked about before, it's just a button. Like this is all you have to do. And you have to make sure that your actual site is, you have some sort of plugin that's going to work with the object cache, but that's it. You just push the button. This could be like an hour, 3, 4, I don't know, of configuration. It's just a button here. You could purge specific pages from the URL, not to purge the entire cache. And you can add exclusions. I would show you how this works, but I'm not going to now because we don't have time. But yes, you just add a URL and you're like the login page for your Lifter LMS website, and it won't cache that page. After doing that, you should clear your cache. And then we have some fun little options. So I don't know, just changing your PHP version isn't a fun little option. It's huge and super important. Using the built-in editor in WordPress is something that you should avoid because it sucks. Sorry. It's just prone to syntax errors. So it's something that we like the file editor, like going into functions PHP and changing stuff. It's something you should probably use something else that's going to do some syntax highlighting instead of using that. So by default, it's off on the production environment. WPP debug, it's the thing that you use for debugging. If you need more information, there's an article about it somewhere, I'm sure, even Presidium's blog. The CDN, you push a button and then it's on. So, and if you wanted to password protect your website with the HTTP auth thing, where it's like, oh, what's your username and password so you can see the site, you just do this and give it a username and password and click enable. Then there's deleting the website. The staging environment is something, so if there wasn't a staging environment here already, you would push a button to create a staging environment. Your staging environment has a different domain. This one over here. You set that up over here at the domains for the staging environment. And you've got the option to push staging to production or push production to staging here. Nice. Reverting would be, for reverting, you would just go into the backups and pick whatever one you want, click restore, and it'll restore everything depending on what you ask for, whether you want the database or just the site files. And then you're all good, just in case you screw up.
Yeah, I think for some hosts or for some users who haven't seen a WordPress managed hosting backend and are more familiar with the cPanel or even just custom shared hosting dashboard or even dedicated hosting, I really like the dashboards that managed hosting have offered.
Yeah, that's really streamlined too. So now I just switch teams. So you're a freelancer, right? And you've got a bunch of different people. Yeah. I instantly switched teams and went to another website just by pushing up here the button. So we roll out releases in batches, and this particular account gets access to this new feature, the firewall feature, that allows you to block certain IPs, allow certain IPs, or block entire countries, like I mentioned before, just by selecting the country. What I did here is I blocked all of Greece from viewing this site. Except for myself. That's my IP. Please don't hack me, people. It's not static. It's going to change. I guess there's one little thing left. What if I go back to this team here and mess with our DevOps support engineers website name? There's only one website. Who should be notified? No one. Site too slow. Fix it, please. Smile. Create ticket. Let's see if we have enough time to get a response. This is a super duper test. I feel kind of bad doing it, considering that we have a maximum of 2 minutes left.
Oh yeah. Let's see if.
But it is something like chat. We get to at least. So I mean, Presidium being quick or not doesn't really matter. What matters is it being available, and Presidium being quick does matter. But what we're trying to show here is it actually being available and you being able to see everything in one little space without having to check your email or respond to a certain email, which it does work via email too. If I do get a response to this and I reply to the email, I'll see it here too. Everything gets consumed.
That's cool. Yeah, this does look like a chat interface. That's where it kind of keeps everything in sync. That's pretty nice.
We're crap though for not having a chat.
And I think, the dashboard features, having it all condensed in there is pretty cool. Is there anything as far as a learning curve or anything you recommend to users who are maybe they've interacted with cPanel back in 2005 to 2015, and they're now looking at these managed WordPress host dashboards and are thinking, I don't want to learn something new. What do you is there, we just did a demo of the features and it seems relatively straightforward. It just, you got to learn to navigate it a little bit and where everything's at. But once you do have that feeling of where everything's at for creating a staging website, where would you go to create a ticket? Where would you go to update your plugins and see your analytics? It all makes sense.
Yeah, we have a knowledge base too at Presidium. You'll find it's a kind of a FAQ kind of thing, but not really an FAQ because it's got more information, details about everything. I think I could bring it up.
Okay.
It's the Presidium knowledge base at help.presidium.com. I was here earlier looking at stuff about instant backups, where you've got all your instructions about them, how they work, how you can do them, where they're saved, how long they're saved for. Everything is documented, but you could always reach out to the support team and ask. They should respond rather quickly. Yeah, they do. It's got a 1 here. Oh, I got excited for no reason. I tried. But yeah, the knowledge base is definitely going to cover up most of the questions people might have.
Cool.
And they can go in order too and just read it like a book if they wanted to. But most people won't. I wouldn't either. I mean, I'd be way too lazy, Will. I'm not going to lie. So if I had a problem, I'd just reach out to support using this.
Yeah, I think and maybe they're ignoring you because they know you.
You think? Check Slack.
Oh, wait, I do that where I'm like testing the system, Lifter LMS, and I'll have a bunch of tickets that are from me that say test or something. But
yeah, I'm getting ignored on purpose.
but
You might be busy, you know, actually working with other people, and they're like, "All right, Chris, that's cool. Fuck off."
that's probably what it is. But cool, I guess. I mean, thanks so much, Christos, for joining me and diving into what makes managed hosting different from shared and dedicated, and a little bit more of an in-depth view. We took a tour today of the dashboard of Presidium and talked about what features you'll usually find in managed host versus maybe a dedicated host or a shared host, and what these interface upgrades can offer for a WordPress application like Lifter LMS or WooCommerce, or a more complex build inside of WordPress. Not that shared hosting or dedicated hosting are bad. It's just important to understand what the differences are and why managed hosting would be a consideration, a strong consideration for an LMS website. Oh, there you go. There's the response. Hello, Christos, please allow us time to perform the necessary speed test. So they're already going to speed test your website.
Well, the request would go to someone like me, I guess, or someone in the performance team, and it would go down the line. But we did get a response, and I really wasn't expecting one. Thanks, Nicolaos. You're awesome.
Well, cool. I guess you have any other final words or recommendations for the audience who's looking to build a complex LMS application on top of WordPress?
Right now, I don't know. Keep following your webinars, keep following us and looking at us, and start your free trial and push the button over here. Give us a try. Bring your site over to us. Tell us if it's good or bad.
Well, thanks everyone for joining. Drop any questions you have in the comments anywhere you see us on social media. That'll give us some ideas for what we should do next regarding hosting and Lifter LMS websites. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you in the next stream.